All right, now we're here. Great. Pastor Emily, I am so happy to see you this morning and to talk about your congregation. Can you tell me what church that you're part of?
Sure. I'm a part of the First Congregational Church of South Dartmouth. We are an open and affirming congregation of the United Church of Christ.
Excellent, excellent. I see you have Pride mug, Pride bumper sticker.
Oh, yeah, this is our bookmark that we give out when people visit. God is still speaking. And yes, and we have our bumper sticker. And yes, that stays up there all the time. So,
And your mug, and right there, your
oh,
mug.
yeah, God is still speaking. Yep.
Ah,
And
excellent,
we're a part of the Open and Affirming Coalition in the United States.
wonderful. Now, how did your church come to be an open and affirming congregation?
Well, our denomination became ordained the first openly gay minister in 1972. The Reverend William Johnson, I believe he was from the United Church of Christ in the Golden Gate in California. So in 1972, we ordained the first openly gay minister. And in 1985, my denomination took a stand nationwide to be open and affirming as a denomination. And this church in particular became open and affirming in 2006. And it's actually one of the oldest churches in the United Church of Christ in Massachusetts that's open and affirming.
That is amazing.
Because as you know, marriage equality became, a thing in Massachusetts in 2004. And this church talked about it and prayed about it and met and discerned about it. And after a 2-year process, they decided to become open and affirming in 2006.
Now, you have a new sign that's coming on your church, correct?
I do. I have a new sign. And, I don't know if I can readily find a picture of it, but maybe I can, that, will
Excellent.
state that we're open and affirming, and it'll be a little more visible on the outside to people. It's been visible on the inside. We have a number of, same-sex marriages and families with children, and I've baptized many babies and done a lot of weddings here, so same gender couples. So and if the words open and affirming are not known to people, it's actually an official designation of congregations of the United Church of Christ that states that we're open and affirming of all people. We welcome all people, regardless of gender identity. Everyone is welcome. All faiths too. I always stress that open and affirming is also about no matter what you believe or where you are on life's journey, you're welcome here.
That's wonderful.
So,
Now, some people might not be that familiar with what a congregational worship entails. What's your worship experience like on a Sunday morning?
sure. So on a Sunday morning, we have, a prelude that plays, and then we do a time of welcoming where I stress every Sunday and remind people we're an open and affirming congregation every Sunday morning, and that all people are welcome. And we have a time of announcements and a time where people can share joys and concerns in their lives if they choose. And then we begin with kind of a traditional New England congregational worship service with a call to worship, an opening prayer. There's a children's time. There's scripture read. I preach a short sermon. I always tell people that if I go over 12 minutes, I myself wouldn't want to listen to it. Maybe that's because I grew up in the South, having to sit in the pew for, hours on end listening to someone. And then we have a time of prayer and take up the offering. And our service is definitely an hour, if not under an hour, on Sunday mornings. So, and our communion table is different probably than other Protestant denominations in that we have an open table. So all people are welcome at our table, whatever it signifies for you in your life. I've had people that belong to the synagogue that come here on Sunday mornings, and they're welcome at our table. our table has no boundaries, and it's grape juice because we want to respect people that are in recovery. And our table is open to all people. I say every Sunday morning, baptized or not, believe a little or believe a lot, saint or sinner or a little of both. And that's when I raise both hands, because I definitely live imperfectly in this world.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
So how would people reach out to your congregation? Well, I guess I should ask, how are you worshiping this with the virus? Are you guys what are you doing for services on Sunday?
So we have been pre-recording and putting them up on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. And the best way for people to contact us is they're always welcome to call the church office at 508-993-6676. Sorry, 508-993-6676. And they can request that we add their email address. We send out an email with our service once a week. This summer, we're going to be sending out the Sunday worship service on Sunday mornings with some other announcements. And we also have Zoom coffees with the pastor this summer, the first Wednesday of the month. We have a Zoom coffee hour the last Sunday of the month. And our fellowship ministry has some cocktail, mocktail hours planned. And they even have a tea planned in June, July, and August. So the easiest way probably is to call the church office at the Congregational Church of South Dartmouth and leave us your email address. Also, I can be reached at ccsdpastor@comcast.net. And that stands for Congregational Church of South Dartmouth, ccsdpastor@comcast.net.
Wonderful. Now, to be a little personal, you and I come from evangelical backgrounds. How did you come to such a wonderful position on LGBTQ plus, as we say, folks?
So I grew up actually Presbyterian Church USA, which is actually a liberal denomination, but I definitely grew up in the South, in Atlanta, Georgia, in the 60s and 70s. So definitely a more conservative area of the United States. I actually grew up with a father who was chaplain on death row and, in the federal pen. And he was also an artist. And his whole conversations with me when I was younger were, that Jesus didn't reject people, and neither do we. And we should be open and embracing of all people. And, that I always go to the scripture in Acts 10, when Peter was praying on a roof and had this whole conversation with God about what he could eat and what he couldn't eat. And, God says to him, do not ever call anything that I have made in all of creation ever. Don't ever call anything unclean or profane in Acts 10:28. And it always, that to me, all of God's creation, all God's people are beautiful and wonderful. And, I actually studied under a rabbi for a while, and I remember him asking me, and I've probably shared this with you, Andy, before, but he said to me, why are Christians so bad at persecuting people who love people of the same sex? And I said, wow, that's a heavy question. I personally, feel like I've never been that way, but I see what you're talking about. And he said, a lot of us believe that Jonathan and King David in the Old Testament were in an intimate relationship with each other. So
well, stronger than that for a woman, is a
yeah,
says.
Right. So I believe I was on Young Life staff, which I think you do know, which is definitely a more conservative theology. And I came really probably in my 30s to really realize that love is for all people, and all people should be able to marry each other. And my own daughter is married to a woman too. So, and my daughter, interestingly enough, in college, her comment to me was, I never really felt like I had to tell you and Dad I was gay, because I knew that you had said to me, you would love whoever I loved in this world. Oh. So, and when she was growing up, our two closest couples, two men had 3 children in our town, and 2 women had 2 children. So, Emma had always known that we yeah, it never was an issue. It was never an issue in our home. It never even was anything we kind of thought about. So to be different. So that made me feel really good as a parent. I felt it's like the one moment I can think of, that was defining, because
Yeah.
for Emma to know that no matter who she loved, we were going to love, of course, like,
Beautiful.
heck yeah.
Well, I wish everyone had the same experience, but that's really beautiful. And it sounds like you're in a good relationship with your daughter. And
Oh yeah. And I think that's probably the tragedy to me in the 3 years I've been here is of some people that have come in. I remember vividly one young couple coming in and asking me if I would be willing to baptize their child. And they were two, same, gender, married people. And I was like, of course I would. And they had been rejected, in this area by a church. And to see their wounds and to be able to say to them, hey, of course I'm going to baptize your child. In fact, it'd be a privilege to baptize your child. And they've continued coming. And I wish that for all people, to be loved and embraced for who they are.
I have to say about the Congregational Church, or the Congo as it's referred to in Dartmouth, right?
Yes.
When I write notes, spoke to Emily at the Congo. I wonder if people are going to wonder what Congo I'm talking about, but that's the slang. Now, it's known for being very friendly.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Can you talk about your congregation? What sort of experience would someone have if they walked in? I know what experience I've had when I've walked in, but
so it's definitely, people say to me that it's, in the last 3 years, it's become a much more diverse congregation, the 3 years that I've been here. I think there's this misconception that it's over here in the village, and so everyone's going to look and be a certain way. But when you walk in our doors, we're actually we're diverse, not as racially diverse as I would want, but we do have diversity here. I think that people here are very loving and kind and accepting of all people. And, when we say it, we mean it. And it's interesting, our building may be closed now, but the church is definitely not. My whole thing is go be love in the world. And we also live here by a covenant of communication, and that we deal openly with each other, and we don't run around and talk about each other. That's forbidden here. We have to love each other and be honest. And I find it to be a very embracing and loving congregation.
I have to say that my experiences of attending your services, that was my experience. My brother got married in your church with Reverend Boynton back in the 70s. So I have some connections, but I will say that my experience has been very, very positive coming to the Congregational Church in South Dartmouth. Now, this is going to be for Pride. So do you have a message for
well, we will have a Pride Sunday here. In fact, I've got my Pride stole on. Our Pride Sunday is June 28th. It'll be a service sent out that day for Pride Sunday, and I've got my Pride stole on with all my colors. My message for Pride would be this: for all the people out there who may see this, that you are beloved, that you are holy and sacred just as you are. And I hope that that the Creator, or as I like to call God, the great love, that the great love embraces you for who you are. Don't ever be different, and dance and celebrate and throw glitter in the air, because you are wonderfully made. That's my message.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And my hope too is not, I always say to people, we may not be the place for you. We may not be the church for some people. But I would love to help you find a place. There's so many great places around here. The Episcopal Church is open and affirming. The Unitarians are open and affirming. I know so many places that are. And so I'm always willing to say, hey, let's find some place that'll work for you.
Excellent.
So.
Yeah. One of my friends says about, a lot of it's personality, and how you worship can be
sure.
a reflection of how your personality, if you're a quiet, introspective person, you might look at a Quaker meeting. If you're like art and symbolism and pageantry, you might look at an Episcopal church. If you are more intellectual in some ways, you might want to have a preaching church like a congregational
Sure.
experience. But yeah, that's a wonderful message. I love to hear that. And my personal feeling is that a lot of times gay people have looked at the negativity in Christianity and thrown the baby out with the bathwater. You know, they've thrown out the spirituality, saying they've rejected me, whereas it's not true. There's a lot of folks that are spiritual, that love God and are gay and are affirming and they're positive and what have you. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Sure. I grieve over the people that have, been turned off or been turned away. Because there is a whole branch of theology, liberal theology, that embraces scripture as myth, and not literal. We don't, I certainly don't take the Bible word for word. I see it more as myth. And I think a lot of people who have been rejected, I can't blame them for not ever wanting to walk in a church. I wouldn't want to walk in a church like that either. I'm very liberal in my beliefs. You'll come here and hear me call God Mother. And, I pray a lot, Mother God, and use feminine pronouns for God. I don't believe God is a man.
Well, Genesis does say made male and female in our image. So
Right.
there is precedent for that. And Jesus talks about gathering Jerusalem like a mother hen.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Absolutely.
a lot of female imagery.
Oh, yeah. There's the God as nursing mother. I mean, there's all these images. I threw them out on Mother's Day. I would say to someone, you're welcome here, you're loved, and we do have a traditional service in the hymns and stuff, but we do try to use inclusive language in our hymns. And I would say to someone who's been rejected that I have, nothing but deep sorrow for them, and that I would hold great love for them. And,
Excellent.
A lot of people in the name of religion have made some grave errors in this world. And it's kind of tragic to me. So
now, can you speak to the building? I know that the church is not the building, the church is the body, but you have a marvelous building.
We do. The building is 200 years old, and the congregation is 211 years old. They formed before they were in this building. The building is great. It's at 17 Middle Street in Dartmouth. And when this congregation called me, they said, make a parking problem. We'd love it if you'd create a parking problem. So I've created a parking problem for them. And you generally park on Middle Street because our parking lot fills up. We average on Sunday morning probably around, during the school months, probably around 100, 120 on a Sunday. In the summer, it definitely significantly drops down to about, 75. And that's understandable because we live in a community where people are out. In the summer, we meet at 9, and during the year, we meet at 10. We do think that at some point we will do an outside worship service. We watch science and medical trends here. And if science shows things continuing on a favorable path in August, we might at the end of August say, bring a beach chair. We'll have a 20-minute service. You'll be socially distanced. You'll have to wear a mask. Our building won't be open. So stay tuned because that could happen the end of August. But the building is great. We have a preschool here. We have several recovery meetings. We have 3 AA meetings that meet here. And that's another thing that I'm really passionate about recovery. And I have a personal journey of recovery. So it's very important to me that we be a light here to help people. So we also go every Wednesday and do mobile ministries as a church in downtown New Bedford. I was there yesterday. Excellent. Down on Brock Avenue. And my whole thing here is the building's great, but you got to leave it. Your faith is a sham if you aren't the gospel in the world. So you can't come here on Sunday mornings and then get angry and cuss out the guy in the parking lot at Stop and Shop. I mean, you have to live out what you believe, even though we all do so imperfectly. But the building's great. You know, we have a great, nice building and a great team of people. The gardens here are great. You know, the property is beautiful. Anyone's always welcome to come park at 17 Middle Street and walk around. The grounds are beautiful.
Now, can you talk about the children's program at the Congo?
Yeah. So you mean with the church?
Yes.
We have a very active youth group. I came here, as you know, I will say the one great thing I learned from being on Young Life staff was that I learned that you go where teenagers are. You never wait on them to walk in the door here. So I go to lacrosse matches, I go to football games, you know, I go where the kids are. I eat a lot of meals at Chipotle. But we have a youth group for the high school kids, and we take a youth mission trip every year to New Orleans. And we have a middle school group, and we have church school that meets on Sunday morning for all ages. And the high school kids come about once a month to church school. And there's some that come and listen to me preach because they know I'm 12 minutes long. And they also remind me if I go a minute over. So we have a pretty active youth program, which is, I think, a great thing. I always say the children aren't our tomorrow, they're our today.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, so we also do an adult mission trip once a year too, to Biloxi, Mississippi. And our youth mission trip is to New Orleans.
Wow, that is wonderful.
Yeah, New Orleans, because people often ask me why I keep going back. I always say, long after something like Katrina has happened, people quit coming, and we're going to be the people that faithfully return there. So,
yeah, hearts and hands, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Go be love in the world and take it out of Massachusetts too, you know. So
great.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to wrap up with? And this has been a wonderful interview, and I'm hopefully some folks will stop in and say hello to you when either call the office or join a Zoom meeting or listen to your join a worship service online.
Yeah. We also are on Facebook. We have a very active church Facebook page, Congregational Church of South Dartmouth, UCC. You can look us up. We maintain that daily, posting things there. So that's really helpful because our video links are also posted there. Feel free to call the church office, at Congregational Church of South Dartmouth at 508-993-6676. Leave us your email address if you just want to, get an email and see what we're up to and possibly watch a service. Definitely feel free to email me at ccsdpastor@comcast.net. You can also leave me a voicemail at the church office if there's anything, if you ever want to meet. I do, I see people pastorally for counseling. There's no fee. Anything that we can do for you, you don't have to be a member here. We're about all people. And if you just want to check us out, and if we're not for you, I'll help you find a place maybe that you would like to go to. So, I'd wrap it up by saying, go be love in the world, and you are wonderfully and beautifully made. And it's been a privilege, Andy. I really appreciate this time.
Well, happy Pride to you.
Happy Pride to you. I'm so excited. I love this month. It's been a great month. I know.
All right. Well, I'm gonna just stop the recording now.
Yeah, I wish I had a glitter cannon.
Boom! Your janitor would probably not want the glitter cannon.
Well, the janitor's me during COVID, so it's all good.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
All right.